Hey guys, welcome to the video. I didn't have good audio for some of this, so I'm trying something new. I'm going to do a voiceover for this video, and we're going to see how that works out. So what you're seeing now is me making the spikes for the Morningstar. My original plan was to make 13 of them, but I went back later and made 4 more. It turns out 17 was the right number for the appropriate spikiness of this. They're made out of 3/8 square stock. I didn't have a set measurement for the length of them. I tapered it out, made a nice point, and that ended up being about 2 inches. So most of these are about 2 inches long. I eyeballed all of them though, so none of them are exact. Next up is me making the socket for the handle. I started with some 1-inch pipe and tapped it on the edge of the anvil to taper it down. That ended up being a little bit more of a pain in the ass than I expected, so I made a pretty good indent with my press and then used that as a guide to taper down the edge. From there, I flared out the end with the horn of the anvil and cut it off with a hot cut tool and a cross peen hammer. Afterwards, a little tappy tap tap on the top to round it over, and I've got a pretty good socket. I actually ended up being very happy with the end product of this. The spike for the end of the handle is next. I used the same piece of 1-inch pipe. It was already tapered down from making the socket. So I hammered it to a nice little point, cut it off with a chop saw, and then flared out the end of it so it fit on the handle. At this point, I decided that I want everything to look kind of rough and like a well-used, battle-worn thing. So I left this pretty rough and beat up, a little more than I normally would have. But it gives a really good look, and you'll see that at the end. I spent a few minutes on the grinder to clean up the back edge of the spikes. Some of them were a little misshapen from using the hot cut tool to separate them, but mostly I wanted to take the forge scale off of them. This gives me a clean surface to weld onto later. The spikes honestly took a lot longer than I expected. The process itself was pretty simple, but I had to do everything 17 times, so it added up. Welding was a challenge at the start. How do you clamp ground to a ball? I ended up clamping my ground in the post vise, and then holding the ball on top of it to get the first spike welded on. From there, things got a little bit easier. I was able to just clamp my ground on the first spike, and then leaving the jaws of my vise slightly open, let me bounce the ball on top of it, twist it around. I could let the spikes drop between the jaws and keep it steady. While you're watching my terrible welding, let's talk about my balls. This is 16 gauge steel. It's hollow. I got from the local steel supply. It's supposed to be a decorative part for a fence, but I thought I'd make a perfect mace. I bought 2. I was worried about how thin the metal was, and I was afraid I'd burn through it welding. Turns out, it's just fine, so now I have an extra. I might use that in a future project. I just have one of those little cheap Harbor Freight flux core welders. For most of what I do, it works great. Most time it's sticking a handle or something, making a little bit of tooling. It's cheap, I don't have to keep up with gas, it works great. But on a project like this, you see what a mess it starts to make. There's a lot of splatter and I guess burnt flux all over it. That's all stuff I can clip later with a wire wheel, but for now it looks pretty bad. The last of my welding is attaching the chain. I cut 2 links in half and welded 1/2 link to the ball itself and 1/2 link to the socket, and then I've got, I don't know, a foot of chain in between. At this point, the flail part of the flail is pretty much done. I had a broken handle off of a garden hoe, and I decided that'd be perfect for this. The rotten end was sawn off of it, and then I picked whatever length looked right for a flail handle and cut that off too. To hold the wood while I was working on it, I checked up on my post vise. It worked alright, but it wobbled a little more than I expected, and you'll see that in the video. I used a jaw knife to taper the ends and make them match pretty close to the sockets. You'll see it was a little dull. That's part of my wobbling issue, as the knife itself was catching on the wood. But it worked alright. It wasn't worth me spending the time to sharpen it better for this little bit of work. It gave me a pretty good result, and then I use it to clean off the varnish and the stickers and give a little bit more of a rough look to the handle instead of just having a perfectly factory finished round. Now it looks like it was hand carved out of a log or something like that. After I had the handle where I wanted it, I heated up the socket and I burned it on to get a good snug fit. I did the same thing with the end cap as well, and then cleaned up the char with a little bit of sandpaper. The finish work for this was pretty easy. Apparently I didn't get a video of it, but I wire wheeled all of the flux off of the ball itself, the spiky end, and then I got it hot and I blackened it with some canola oil, and that gives it a real nice look to it. I drilled a hole in the socket here, and I put a nail through it actually, and cut it off, and used that as a rivet. So it's glued with epoxy, and it has a rivet through the handle as well. Should keep it on there pretty good so it doesn't go flying off when I swing it at something. So to finish it up, I have a little dark walnut stain here. I just rubbed it on, darkened up the handle. It gives it a nice older look. Afterwards, I finished the handle and soaked all the metal with my go-to boiled linseed oil. This keeps all the metal parts from rusting and gives the smallest amount of finish on the handle. Now with that done, this is the part you've been waiting for, smashing a pumpkin.